Good afternoon then, Daniel. All right, the current president of Tanzania, John Magufuli, has declared a 7-day mourning period in honor of former President Benjamin Mkapa. I guess with all presidents, there will be strong supporters and there will be detractors, but what's the general sort of feeling or attitude really towards him in the country?
Well, thank you again. President Mkapa was deeply loved by many Tanzanians and East Africans and Africans as a whole. The country is in a somber mood. People are tweeting. Last night, midnight, President Magufuli made a presidential address to the nation and revealed the news of former President Mkapa's death himself. Since then, ministers from different ministries have been issuing statements of condolences and expressing how important President Mkapa was to the nation. So from the community level reactions to presidential and diplomatic level reactions, the country is in a state of sadness. We know that different embassies like the US Embassy, the Chinese Embassy and other embassies have issued statements of support to Tanzanians and also their sadness at the loss of such a great leader. So it's definitely a very sad day for Tanzania.
I want to talk about some of the most significant contributions that Mkapa has made to Tanzania. We've also heard from the African region in general, where the African Union has said that he was very important in terms of peacekeeping for the East African region. But there was also on the back of it, and I hate to do it, but when someone's passed, we generally don't try to focus on the negatives. But I think it is important to also reflect on the fact that there had been quite a bit of criticism about former President Mkapa being perceived as ineffective when it comes to dealing with issues of corruption in his own country. And I think that was quite a bit of a black stain on his tenure and on his time as president. Can we talk about that? So I think let's focus more on the good, but also it is important just to talk about some of the negative that you don't fail to see if you're talking about former President Mkapa.
Yeah, first of all, let's just remember that President Mkapa took the reins and took control as president in 1995. It was a period in which the country was transitioning from a more socialist way of life into a capitalist way of life. And you touched on his anti-corruption agenda. And in fact, that is what got him into power. And he was highly supported by the late President Julius Nyerere, who was the father of our nation. He took power in 95 and he had a huge promise of tackling corruption, and he did form something called the Presidential Commission on Corruption, famously known as the Warioba Commission, and he also enforced more power to the Prevention of Corruption Bureau, which is an organ of the government that dealt with corruption. There have been, yes, criticism that maybe perhaps he could have taken a stronger stance in sort of handling these cases that were discovered. However, that of course is a matter of opinion, and that has been the view of certain people. During his tenure, since I'm on the topic of his presidency, he led the country for 2 terms till 2005, and he was very much in favor of a free market economy. In fact, he pushed to privatize a lot of the country's in public institutions, and some of his free market policies were applauded by the World Bank and IMF, and even led to some of the foreign debts for Tanzania to be forgiven or cancelled. So there are perceptions, like you said, but overall, the respect that he has from East Africans has been high.
Yeah. What are the plans? I mean, it's very early. I mean, he only passed away last night. Regarding memorials and funerals and that. The reason I'm raising this is because we've obviously had to have very many changes in terms of how we pay our respects to people. Given the COVID-19 pandemics, funerals have had to take a sort of a different turn. I mean, recently in South Africa, we lost the daughter of our former president, the father of our nation, Nelson Mandela, and we saw we couldn't didn't really give, she wasn't given, I suppose, the funeral that we would have expected for someone of her stature. Is there going to be a similar situation, as you look at it, in terms of how respects will be paid to Mkapa? We've also just recently lost Andrew Mlangeni, one of our struggle heroes, and we're also having to have virtual funerals and memorial services. So it's a little bit tricky, and I'm wondering if it's the same situation in Tanzania at the moment.
Yeah, regarding burying and last respects for former President Benjamin Mkapa, we got an update from the Prime Minister himself this afternoon saying that the President will be, last respects for the President will be done at the National Stadium next Tuesday. So I feel like we don't have exact details, but I feel that as it stands, perhaps it could be a chance for citizens to go and pay their last respects at the National Stadium, something that was done for the late Julius Nyerere, whereby citizens and the diplomatic community and political leaders were given a chance to go and pay last respect. But he will be buried in Masasi in Mtwara region. That's where he is from, and he's expected to be buried that next day after last respect. So the last respects will be on Tuesday, and then he'll be flown to Mtwara on Wednesday, and then he'll be laid to rest. So as far as it stands, that's how we know. In terms of COVID, anti-COVID measures with regards to the burial, obviously the country has been adjusting and recovering from COVID. The government has been saying that COVID-19 is no longer a serious issue. So we're yet to see the protocols, but as it stands, that's what we know.
All right. Daniel Kijo, always a pleasure. Thank you very much for giving us that update, our correspondent in Tanzania. Thank you, sir. All right, that's Daniel Kijo from Tanzania. The family of a 34-year-old Limpopo man who died in a car accident 4 months ago is seeking closure. Trevor Mudua from Tianda outside Toyondo was burned beyond recognition after a head-on collision with another vehicle on the N1 near Mokopane. His remains have